Here.
A rainbow?
Yeah.
Ah, for the colors. All right. That's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Yeah. Stained glass does that, right?
Yes.
So we're going to start off. We'll start off with chapter Chav. Anybody want to say Tehillim for? I'll start with Sar Mendel Bas Chana Etka. Anyone?
Dov Ben Bela.
Dev Ben Bela. Okay. Anyone else? If you have anyone you want to say Tehillim for, put it down. Yona Bas Chaya. Okay.
Yisrael Aharon Ben Chayleah and Henrik Bat Chayleah.
Okay, so our learning today is in honor of Refuah Shalema. If they need Shidduchim, they need Parnasa. We're going to focus now on these amazing people. So please definitely put it down. Good morning, Becky. Good morning, Corinne. Good morning, Sophie. Hi, good morning. Great to see you. Okay, you can put down the names if you'd like. Lamnatzech Mizmar David Yancha Adonai B'Yom Tzara Yisagef Hashem Elahei Yaakov Yishlach Ezrucha Mikodesh U'Mitzion Yisadeka Yiskar Kom B'Chasecha V'Loscha Yidash Nesela Yiten L'Chachma V'Echa V'Chol Atzascha Yimalei N'Rana B'Shuasecha U'V'Shem Eloheinu Yidgol Yimalei Adonai Kol Mashalosecha Ati Adati Ki Yashi Adonai Mishichov Yanir Mishmei Kotre B'Vuras Yesha Yimina Ela V'Recha V'Ela B'Sosa Menachna M'Shem Adonai Eloheinu Naskir Hema Karv V'Nafol V'Anachnu Kamnu V'Nisadad together Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Yaneinu V'Yom Karein. Okay, so yesterday I was actually in Montreal. I went to speak for the women in the community. It was a beautiful Hakel event. Someone said, who sponsored it? I said, it was all the synagogues in Montreal. So there was a cross spectrum, over 300 women, religious, not religious, Sephardic, Ashkenazi, all kinds of Hasidim. It was such a beautiful feeling. I think that's really what Hakel is.
Yeah.
Hakel is, you make an event and everyone from the shul shows up. You make a Hakel event and everyone from the city shows up. That's a Hakel event. That's the unity. So, and that's a beautiful way, because when we talk about Shavuot, the most incredible part about Shavuot was, does anybody know?
The unity?
Yeah. It was
One heart.
Ish echad b'lev echad. One heart. For Jews to be one heart, after they all have the opinions and the values and the traditions. You know, my family does this, your family does that. Oh, we can't eat by you, you don't have this. And you know what? And Hashem celebrates our differences, right? Because we're told last week's parsha, Hashem actually calls us by our names of our shevet, by the names of our tribes. It wasn't like Hashem said, you are all just Jews. You are Bnei Yisrael. You come from 12 different kinds. And everyone's going to have differences, even in our own family, as our own children. We don't clone them. They're all different. So this is what the beauty of Shavuos is. Really working on the ability to see past the externalities and just connecting with the neshamas. And that's what happened on Shavuos. So that's the global dream, right? They're all the Jews together. But what about Shalom Bayit in the home? Sometimes it's really nice togetherness. That's right, Becky. Sometimes it's really nice that we're all accepting of other Jews. But how about accepting of our children and our spouses? It's very easy, I think, to be nice to the world, where you're acknowledged, oh, she's so sweet, she's so nice, and you get the plaques, and da-da-da. And at home, who celebrates our niceness? Who gives us a plaque for being so kind and so compassionate? You know, you'll get a thank you once in a while, but you're not getting plaques, and no one's making big dinners for you. So really, this is the challenge. Being a mensch and accepting the Torah starts from our close inner circle. Then, when we solidify that close circle, hello Terry, good morning Tova, good morning Marlene, good morning Helga, good morning Karine. Just, being nice for the externals is easier because you can be nice and you come back home. But being soft and gentle and kind and friendly and upbeat and optimistic and positive in the house, that takes work. So the 10 Commandments is not just for being between us and man, being Adam leChavero, or being Adam leMakom, between us and Hashem, but it's really in our home, in our Shalom Bayis. And the most amazing thing is that if we are very solid in our home, then it becomes so much more natural and so much more real to our relationships outside. It starts at home, and then it branches out. So we're going to go with the 10 Commandments in a marriage. Are you ready? Okay. This is what we're going to do today. The 10 Commandments of a marriage. And so we're going to start off with the first one of the commandments. I'm going to be testing you today. What's the first commandment?
Know your God.
How's it in Hebrew? Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am God, your God. It's very interesting. The word Anochi really in Hebrew means Ani, me. But Anochi is not Hebrew. Anybody know which language Anochi is? Anybody? Which language is Anochi? Well, the Jews are coming out of Egypt, so what language should it be? Yeah, it was the language they spoke in Egypt. That was the language. Maybe it was Arabic, maybe it was a different dialect, but Anochi, and Hashem used that word to start the 10 Commandments. Familiarity. Hashem was being familiar with the Jews when he said, Anochi, I am God, your God. But then Hashem said something very powerful, that in a marriage, I think it's like the first commandment, but I'll tell you what's so important. Hashem is saying, have no doubt that I am the God that took you out of Egypt. Don't think it was the ruler of Egypt. Don't think it was the God of Egypt. Don't even think it was Moses. Anochi Hashem Lekecha. In a relationship, and specifically in a marriage, and many young couples that are dating now, this doubt that creeps in is a real danger. You know, I'm married 3 years. I don't know if it was the right guy. I'm not sure. I'm married 15 years, and I'm beginning to think I made a mistake. 15 years, 30 years, 45 years. People, you know, you hear today about they're married 28 years. They just got divorced now.
My brother was 50 years, and she walked out.
She walked out. So it's this creeping of doubt. Why doubt? If you think you have an answer, please put it down in the comments. Why is there doubt creeping in? You dated, you went out, you stood at the chuppah, you celebrated the milestone, maybe even the first anniversary. What suddenly made that zhuk in your cup that you begin to think you have doubt? And this comes from the Yetzer Hara. And it is a real thing, and we have to acknowledge it. It's like the elephant in the room. The elephant is going to be there. Call it out. Sometimes you're going to have the Yetzer Hara, also known in Tanya as the animal soul, the Nefesh Bahamis, and that's his job. He creeps in and gives us doubt. But you have to come back with force and say, don't hit me with this doubt. Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I know the decision I made. And sometimes, this is where it comes from. Couples might go out together somewhere, and she notices that her friend's husband pulls out the chair when they go to the restaurant. Or he takes off her coat and hangs it up for her. Or he brings back her coat and puts it on for her. So romantic. So wonderful. Did I make a mistake by marrying my husband? He doesn't pull out the chair. He doesn't open the door. But what are all the other things he does for you? But when doubt comes in, it has like its webs. So Hashem is saying, listen, my dear children that are married. Anochi Hashem Elokecha, you made a good decision. Now, of course, let's make a very strong caveat right here, right now. If there is anything toxic, or there's any danger, or there is a time for you to go. When we're talking about little things that creep up and say, my husband's not romantic anymore. He used to buy me flowers. He used to bring me cards. It doesn't happen anymore. Let's go away from these sort of simple gestures and say, what's really going on in my marriage? Has he been committed? Has he been strong? When I was down, was he there for me? Has he been a role model for our children? And vice versa for the wives. Yeah, maybe we don't make these fancy, beautiful breakfasts anymore. And we don't make these elaborate 6-course meals like we did the first year of marriage. But are we there for our spouse when they need encouragement, when they need words of affirmation? Are we there for Shabbat dinner? Are we there for raising the children? Did we bring children into the world? Did we carry them for 9 months? Did we nurse them for another 18 months? Look what's happened to our body. Hello? Do we have to look in the mirror and know that after so many children, our body's deformed? For what reason? Because we brought their children into the world. The beauty, the kindness. So the first commandment is about, let's realize that sometimes the doubt that creeps in is just the nefesh habahamis. It's just the animal soul. And it's not really who we are and where our mind is. So, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. I am the God that took you out. I am the man you married. I am the woman you married. And if I have doubts, let me sit down with my wife or my husband and discuss it. Sit down and talk about it. Something's bothering me. I want to have a conversation. And that conversation, or that ability to verbalize what's bothering me, can sometimes shoo away the doubt. You know, when you talk about the elephant in the room, the elephant's gone. That's why we say, let's discuss the elephant in the room, and it's gone. So that's number one, Anochi Hashem Elokecha. But then there's something very interesting. Asher etzicha me'eretz Mitzrayim. I'm the God that took you out of Egypt. Is that the greatest thing God ever did for us? Anybody? What do you think that was a little bit slightly bigger, I would say? Even more than God. That's part of the taking out of Egypt, giving us the Torah. But what was something that God did that really no other human could ever do? Creation. God created the world. Why don't we say, I am the God that created the world? Like slightly bigger? So it's a very interesting thing that I heard somewhere. Hashem says, I took you out of Egypt. Thank you, Helga. That's right, creation. Hashem says, I took you out of Egypt to remind you where you came from. In marriage lingo, you know, in coaching and therapy, they talk about childhood influences. Remembering where you came from. All of us come into a relationship, but we all came from different places. You know, even though we're told in Kabbalah that when we're married, it becomes palga de gufa. We become one person. Our soul isn't just a soulmate, we become actually a physical one being. And you see this many times in couples when they're older and one dies, literally a few weeks or a few months later, the other one passes away. They might have been in great physical health, but their body, half of their body is gone. They can't live without it, and they wither away and die. I'm actually, right now, there's a couple in our community. She passed away a few months ago, and he has no interest in living. And every day he wakes up and goes, oh my gosh, I'm still here? He is wishing himself to be killed, to be taken back. And the family, it's so hard for them because he's really here, his mind is there. But the family sees that as soon as his soulmate was gone, he was gone. But that takes time. It takes time to mold and to become one being, right? Corinne, exactly, like your parents. Exactly. Corinne was part of our Tanya Club. Her father passed away, am I right? And then right after that, literally within a few weeks, her mother passed away. And she sat Shiva again. Like we were back at the house with the Shiva house. They were one being. When we talk about childhood influence, Hashem says, I took you out of Egypt. Hashem is saying, remember where, 1 week, yes, remember where you came from. We're standing under the chuppah. We're standing there as two individuals, right? Could be in our 20s, in our 30s, some of us may be in our 40s. We're standing there, two individuals getting married. Wrong. It's 4 individuals. It's you as an adult and you as a child. And that child comes into your marriage with you. Your upbringing, your likes and dislikes, your trauma, the good days, the bad days. We can't hide things under the carpet in our marriage. It has to come out. Remember where you came from and grow with it. Learn from it, benefit from it, maybe heal from it. But it cannot be denied that we come with our childhood influences. Hashem says, remember where you came from. You're coming into a marriage, don't leave it back. First of all, there's so much beauty in how we were raised. There are traditions. There are songs we sang on Shabbat. There were things we did on Pesach. There are places we went to as families that we want to revisit again. We want to bring our children there. Don't block out where you came from. Mitzrayim. You as a family came from Mitzrayim, Hashem says, and that's what you're bringing to the Jewish people. But for our marriages, let's remember where we came from and include it. Right? You have, especially if Ashkenazi, Sephardi, you have Chabad and not Chabad, you have maybe secular and a little bit more religious, or we all came from different places. Let's bring the beauty, because every one of us has beauty. One of my nieces just got engaged to a Satmar guy. Wow. Now, if you know anything about Chabad and Satmar, we don't even see eye to eye. But this guy is a little bit more chilled. My niece is a little bit more chilled. Beautiful people. And together, they are going to raise a family based on the values of both families. Is it going to be hard? I don't know. It's going to be different, because many times when you come from the same place, it's much easier to bring their traditions. That's why we always say Jews marry Jews, because there's enough going on in a relationship you have to work out. At least come with the same background. You don't have to fight about baptism. You don't have to fight about brisses. You don't have to fight about bar mitzvahs. You don't have to fight about schools. People that intermarry, they are setting themselves up for failure. And I've seen hundreds of marriages that have been dissolved or been very, very shaky. Not that people who marry Jews don't have issues, but there are less issues, right? I would say birds should marry birds and fish should marry fish. It just works easier. But here Hashem is saying to us, look at where you came from and celebrate it and bring it into a relationship. What's the second commandment? Not yet. Do not have other gods. Is Hashem a jealous God? Okay. Think about that. I mean, this is the most obvious in a relationship. What would that be?
Lover.
What? Don't bring another lover into your relationship. Is this as drastic as another lover? Or can it be a little bit less drastic that I think that you and I can sort of bring it into our marriages? You know, we say that when a couple stand under the chuppah, they walk around 7 times. And Kabbalah tells us that the 7 circles are the 7 sfirot that we talk about a lot in Tanya. But it's building your home. It's actually building the wall. Because interestingly, after you walk around 7 times, even if you have grandparents walking with you, they step out and you and your husband are in that circle. Only you and your husband. This is sending a very, very powerful message. If anybody has any insight into what I'm alluding to here, what are the husband and wife proclaiming the moment they walk into that circle? That there is no other God. There's no other person or relationship that's going to infiltrate our love. So the example that my husband and I always share privately, but it's an interesting, he was standing in Sobeys one Friday, like he does, my husband, does my Friday shopping, and there was a lady in front of him that her car didn't work. And it could be embarrassing. It's happened to me once in a while. My car didn't work. And she turns around, and my husband was standing behind her, and he has no idea who this woman was. And she turns to my husband and all the people behind him on a Friday, it's busy, and she goes, "Oh, my husband! He knows I go shopping. Why didn't he fill up the bank with money? I can't believe what a loser I'm married to." My husband looked down. He didn't even want to give the woman eye contact. Because at that moment, she walked out of relationship. She misplaced her and her husband's the solidifying. She stepped out of the circle. Even though there maybe no one in the line knew her, but she brought her relationship out, and she stepped out of the circle. That's when Hashem says, don't bring other gods into the relationship. There are certain things that have to stay private. And each one of us knows what that is. And sometimes we're tempted. I'm giving now the brides and grooms their courses. My husband and I give the courses before the June weddings. And 2 weeks ago, we had a whole thing on the communication, and we spoke about different aspects of it. And one of the things my husband we emphasize with young people specifically is that many times, the guys get together, the wives get together, and they start sharing things about each other. Oh, your husband does that? Oh, you can't imagine what my husband does. And it's supposed to be a joke. You don't know the pain it causes to the other spouse when they find out that they've been the butt of jokes. It literally can dissolve a relationship instantly, and is the beginning of it spiraling out of control. You have stepped out of the circle. We made the circle under the chuppah. We made a vow not to step out. Of course we visit friends, and of course we go out with friends, and of course we visit family. But there are things that Hashem says are between me and you. And Hashem expects that in our relationship, and we expect that from our relationship. How would we like it if we knew that men went out to have a beer, or they were sitting at a Farbrengen somewhere, or at a beer party, or at a bachelor party, and the jokes were talking about wives? It's devastating. And for women that this has happened to, it literally, it shakes up their core, and to their husband it might have been just a joke.
Yeah.
And everybody wants to make a laugh. Everybody likes to be the one that brings a laugh into the... Don't be the one that needs to be the one that makes a laugh. Be the boring one in the circle. Don't be the one that has to say, oh, you think your wife is... You should see my wife. Second commandment. Do not have other gods before me. So simple, but has to be reminded. Even... so one of the things we talk about is... in our marriage classes, that we tell the husbands and wives, the brides and grooms, we say to them, don't make your wife or your husband a butt of jokes. So even if you're sitting with family and they'll say, yeah, we were planning on doing the basement, and Joey thought he would, attempt to do the basement, and Joey, everyone knows Joey, he's got 2 left hands, right, Joey? Whoa, what? You just made a joke in front of your husband about your husband? So we've been teaching for many, many years, and one of the couples that we've taught, they're probably married now 16 years. And whenever I see her, she says, Goldie, whenever we go out with friends, I can point exactly who came to your class and who didn't. I said, how is that possible? She goes, the couples that make fun of each other and think it's cute, they didn't come to your class. It's so simple, and it's so maybe common sense, but because you ingrained it, my husband and I would never make a joke about each other in front of our family, even our siblings. It is asur. And the 10 Commandments teach us things that are asur. And this is something I think we have to realize, that we have to be very cognizant. And that's why we go back to the mitzvah of being careful what we speak. Lashon hara, we close our mouth. Hashem gave us 2 protections. He keeps us covered, makes sure that we don't have to, God forbid, go somewhere where we regret. Then the third one. The third one is very similar to this one, but it's do not say God's name in vain. And that's very, very similar to what I said now. Being careful about being cynical and using your husband's name or your wife's name just to throw it out there, because there needs to be this holiness that's centered around each other. Sometimes saying things to a friend which might be harmless, but people today are not so careful with talking. I just told someone else what you said, and it grows, and before you know it, it comes back to the couple like, I didn't say that. I never said that about my wife. But things grow. So we say, don't say your husband or wife's names in vain. Don't say Hashem's name in vain. Now, what's the 4th one of the commandments? Okay, the 4th one is remember the Shabbos and keep it holy. It's interesting. There are 2 terms Hashem uses for Shabbat. Do you know what they are? Remember and Zachor, to remember, and Shemor, to watch. Can you tell me, and guard, can you tell me what that you think that would have to do with relationships? How do you remember? What does it mean? Remember the Shabbos. Remember. What would that be? Anybody? Hi, Sancha. Good morning, Ava. That's right, Corinne. What would that be to remember? Remember the marriage.
Respect.
Respect. Build on that. Let's build on that. I would say memories. Create memories. Create memories so that you remember. You know, my husband and I do marriage counseling, and we do a lot of it on Zoom as well. There was a couple from the States, and she was ready to walk out on him. So we were like the last resort. Someone said, why don't you call Rabbi Goldie Plotkin, and the price is right. So we care more about marriage than about the money, right? And it was quite a serious thing, but I felt it was something that could be fixed. So how do I gauge, before I start, how do I gauge that this marriage is fixable? You know what I do? I always ask them to discuss what was their dating like and what was their wedding like. When I see that the wife or the husband go back with a smile and they have a good memory, then I know this is absolutely fixable because they have a good place where they're coming from. There's good groundings. And they come in angry. You could see there's the fists are out. And all of a sudden, they melt and they say, oh my gosh, the dating was amazing. And then I know that they built on Zachar. They built their Zachar. Yes, there's something that we have to iron out, and we did, and we will, but they have good memories. We must continuously make Zachar in our marriage. It's vacations, it's private time, it's fun family traditions, or birthday celebrations, or anniversary. It's anything that's not boring. Just something that makes memories. And as we do this, we are building up this core that even when things are struggling, we have solid memories. So yes, we will definitely have things coming along our way. Hello? We're two humans. Of course we'll have stumbling blocks. But we can go back to Zachar. We're going to remember the beauty. And there's that, we speak so much about the 5 love languages. Invest in those languages. Make the time. Give the gifts. Write the cards. Write the mushy cards. Do it. So that when, God forbid, there's a shaky moment and one of you wants out, with the help of a therapist or a coach, you go back to the Zachar and you remember those good memories. You remember those beautiful things. Now, what is keep? Keep the marriage? The keeping the marriage, the shamar, anybody know? The shamar, good morning, Carmela. Good morning, Denise. Good morning, Ella. The shamar is the mitzvahs that we actually have to keep, to guard, to protect. Don't go in a car on Shabbos. Don't turn on the lights on Shabbos, right? Those protections. We have to keep those in our marriages as well. Realizing that we have to keep things guarded and sanctify it. Even carving out time. I told this story many times, and this was a shlucha actually. She was sharing it at the. She was talking about, it was a marriage workshop, and she was saying, shluchim we could have a lot of challenges in our marriage because we all don't have 9-to-5 jobs. We are 24/7. Even Shabbos, when things are there, the shliach and the shlucha are busy, right? And she felt like she wasn't getting enough time from her husband, this woman. And she had to inspire him that if you don't invest in our marriage, I can't go on like this. I'm not just a shlucha, I'm also a wife, right? Shluchim also have needs and shluchos. The same needs that every other woman needs. So she went over to her husband one day, and I'm going to use the name Mendy, because that's what most Lubavitchers' names are. And she says, Mendy, one of the guys in the shul, one of your biggest supporters, I'm not going to tell you his name, he wants to have a meeting with you downtown, and he wants me to organize the time and date for you. And Mendy's all excited because he's always working hard on making money for the Chabad house. And so he goes to his calendar and he carves out a time. He goes, you know what? 7 o'clock is dinner time. I'm going to wait for the kids to finish dinner. I'll do homework. How about 8:30? I meet him down at the King Eddie. Great. So she puts it in. She goes, great, I'll let him know. The following week on Wednesday, husband says, you know, Chaimushka, I got to go downtown. I'm meeting so-and-so. She goes, yes, great. I hope it goes well. I hope, you really connect because good supporters, they're hard to find. And, Mendy runs out. She arranged a babysitter. She runs the other door. He gets there before her. He's sitting and waiting for Mr. Charlie or Mr. whoever to show up. In walks Chaimushka and his mouth drops. He goes, Chaimushka, are you part of the team? Like, are you meeting with us also? She goes, no, Mendy. I am your supporter. If we don't connect and carve out time and shamar at our marriage, there ain't going to be a marriage. Not only is the Chabad house going to fall apart, our marriage is going to fall apart. I am your biggest supporter. We need to invest in each other. And it was and she shared it because she says it was a huge aha moment for both of them. That we need to invest. When Hashem says to us, Zachor is a Shabbos, so we could really light the candles, eat the challah, have the fish, but then the rest of the day we go out, we go shopping, we go mow our lawn, we do our laundry. We only do the Zachor as a Shabbos. We don't do the Shamor as a Shabbos. Hashem says, you need Zachor and Shamor. You want the benefit of this relationship? 25 hours exclusively for each other. It's true. It's true. If we didn't have the not doing things, so we would have our Shabbos meal and go out and dance. We'd have our Shabbos meal and go out and do other work and chores. No. It's Zachor and Shamor. That is so incredible. Now we get to the fifth. What's the fifth one of the commandments? Honor your father and your mother. By the way, if any of this is resonating with you, give me a heart because I don't see you guys. So show me the heart. Show me the love. Okay? I'm getting feedback here, but I need to see it over there. Do you agree with what I'm saying? Okay? There you go. All right, I see that. Good. Okay. So we have now the fifth. It's very interesting, by the way. The fifth one is not between man and God. It's between man and man, right? Us and our parents. Why is it on the side of the commandments that are between us and God? Anybody? Why is that? Anybody know why the fifth commandment, which is honoring your parents, is together with honoring God?
It's a high honor.
If you honor your parents,
It's a high honor.
Because if you're honoring your parents, you're honoring God. I have to tell you something very interesting. We're living in a society today where many parents are, I'll use the word in Yiddish, they're meichel the honor. The halacha tells us very clearly, you're not allowed to sit on your parents' chair. You're not allowed to contradict your parents. You're not allowed to argue with your parents. You're not allowed to wake up your parents. You have to eat, when you're sitting on the meal, they have to eat first. A lot of parents go, I told my kids they can call me by the first name. It doesn't. Oh. I told my kids they could sit on my chair. I told my kids they could sleep in my room. They don't have to knock on the door. I told my kids it doesn't matter. I told my kids they can have equal rights and we can discuss things. Hashem says, honor your parents because I said. You can't forego on the honor. I said you have to expect and demand the honor. Not because of you. So when I say to my children, you can't talk of that because Hashem said you can, not because I'm arrogant and I expect respect. No, I'm doing this because Hashem said you have to honor me. It's a very different space. It's not arrogance. Don't eat before me. How dare you eat before me? It's quite arrogant. But the Hashem said, Code of Jewish Law says, sweetie pie, you have to wait for mommy to come in before you eat your fish. It's such, first of all, as far as respect, just in general, it's such a classy home when the children don't eat before their parents eat. They pass everything up to their mom and dad before they take. Everything that gets served. You know, when I'm having guests and I'm in the kitchen and I'm serving, and I always say to give my husband first. And if I don't tell them, many of them give it to the other guests. And to me, it's like, no, my husband gets first. And my husband won't start eating until I'm back at the table. right? And when he clears off, he'll say to everyone, please clear off, let's help Goldie. Like, it's a duality, right? But it's not because I'm demanding respect, or my husband. My chair, my husband's chair, no, my father's chair. I never sat on my father's chair in my life except for 2 times. My bas mitzvah, we had a bas mitzvah party, my father let me sit in his chair, and the Shabbat Kala, the Shabbos before, my father goes, no, Goldie, I want you to sit in it. Now, it's not like if I sat down, my father would have an attack, but it was understood you didn't sit on your parents' seats, right? Even now, I'm 59 years old. I'm sitting in my parents' house. I will never sit on my father's chair. And then I find out my father switched his chair. He sits on the other side of the table because it's just my parents. And my mother goes, no, Tata doesn't sit there anymore. Tata sits here. It's just so psyche in our mind. And it wasn't because my parents were. It was just the awareness that Hashem gave us parents, and He gave us mitzvahs. And He said, you honor your parents, and this is how you're going to honor them. We had, before Mother's Day, we did a whole unit with the children. And we taught the children that you don't go into your parents' room until you knock on the door. So I had a child, literally from the 80s, that was in my school. Now he's going to be in his 30s. One of his aunts, who I'm still friendly with, tells me that his mother and father were away in Europe on a vacation. And this boy was, at that time, a university student. And he called his parents frantically, Mom, I'm going away on vacation. I need my passport. So Mother goes, you know where it is. It's in my drawer in the bedroom. He goes, hey, I just wanted permission to go into your room. And the aunt says, this was the chinuch he got at Torah Tats. Because we impressed on him. And 18 years later, he still wouldn't walk into his parents' room. My kids would never walk into my room. My grandchildren would never think of jumping in my room on their bed or anything. When I invite them in, if it's Sunday morning and they're sleeping, when I say, come kidla, come and sit down, hang out with Bubby. They go, oh, Bubby, you let us? It's just that there's a degree, and Hashem told that to us. Hashem said, we have to honor our parents, and then if we honor our parents, then we also learn to honor God. When we learn respect, then our generation learns to respect God. There's authority. They respect us, they respect their teachers, they respect elders. They get up when an elder walks into a room. I went to speak at the Beis Chumash last week, and I walk in, they had this, it was a thing in the show. So I walk into the show, and nobody said anything. They all stood up. Like, it was humbling for me. But no one told these girls. I said to the principal, I said, wow. She goes, no, the girls know any adult that walks into their room, they stand up. So it could be a teacher, a substitute, a principal, or a rebbitzin. They stand up. Just being raised with that is so beautiful when you're on a bus. And an elderly, have you ever gone on a train in Israel? How everyone jumps up for an elderly, for someone who's pregnant? Every soldier stands up. It's ingrained in the society. I don't know if Canada has it. I know America doesn't have it. No. We have to go back to the 10 Commandments, and that's what this Shavuot is teaching us. Let's go to one more, because it's already late. Do not murder. Okay? Do not murder. What does that practically mean for us? We know, of course, physical abuse and all kinds of abuse. What does it mean to not murder for us in our relationship? So, anybody have any thoughts on that? Anybody? What does it mean in a relationship, do not murder?
What you say?
Yes. You want to elaborate on that? Just expand that thought.
How you say it.
How you say it. You know, they say, don't make me, don't break me. There's a whole book written about in relationships about how we have the ability to make or break our spouse. Right? Shlomo Melech says this very wise words. Chayim v'maves b'yad halashon. You know what that means? Tanya, that's right. Do not embarrass. Do not humiliate. Excellent. Lori, Lashon Hara. What does it mean?
No, I was just, life is in, and then I forgot what you said.
Halashon. Chayim v'maves b'yad halashon. It's on your tongue. On your tongue. Exactly. We could kill with our tongue?
Yeah.
Is that possible? It is possible. You know, the ability to make our spouse to be successful, to allow them to pursue their dreams. If they wanted to become a writer or a speaker or start a new job, you know how many women will say, what do you know about writing? Oh, it's such a waste of money. You're going to invest $10,000 in a book? When was the last time you wrote anything? Is that not murder?
Yeah.
Well, you think you know how to start businesses? Just work for people. You know, look at the way you are. Look at the way you look. Who's going to want to make a business with you? Is that not killing?
Yeah.
The way I just said it?
Killing confidence.
It's killing the confidence. It's murder. Hashem says, think about the words we use and the way we use it. Words, I think it was Mark Twain that said, I could live on one compliment for a month. Right? Encouragement comes from the word of courage. How much wisdom and joy and self-confidence we can give our spouse by using the right words. So we're going to conclude for the rest of the 10 Commandments. Go to shul Friday morning.
Yeah, the real ones.
And then you'll hear the real ones. Really, the most important time for Jewish community now is to go to shul on Friday, to accept the Torah again. But more than that is bring the children. Bring your kids, Erica. I don't care if this public school on Friday. Take them out of school and say, this is the holiday where we marry God. This is solidifying. On Sukkot we dated. On Pesach God proposed. On Shavuot we're getting married. Imagine we don't show up for our anniversary party. Think about your marriage if you don't show up to the anniversary party. All right. You know the husbands who don't remember the anniversary and it's such a patch and panim. So this Friday is our anniversary party. Be there. Take care.